High pressure is back once again in our part of Texas, and we've flip-flopped yet again from overcast to clear skies. Let's take a look at the surface map and see what's going on around the country. We had a major snowstorm in New England overnight. That has pretty much moved out of the picture, and we're left with maybe a little trough there across Pennsylvania and Ohio. Still a little residual snow back there near that trough. In the central U.S., we've got high pressure down there in Louisiana, and north of that, southwesterly flow starting to generate downslope conditions. And you can see conditions very warm, mid-50s there in Amarillo and 40s in Colorado. And we're even seeing upper 40s in Montana. We're showing a weak low-pressure center there in Vegas, and I think there could be a little baroclinicity in there, so maybe I'm going to draw a very weak front in case that comes together. We'll keep an eye on that. And up in Canada, some very interesting weather. Let's pan up there. We've got a strong baroclinic system there near Saskatoon with a strong cold front extending westward to about Calgary. And you can see there's some very cold air north of that. And because of that, the sheer intensity of that cold air and the high pressure, I'm going to carry that as an Arctic air mass. And as we pan north, we can see some brutally cold air, minus 49 at Norman Wells, Northwest Territories. And that's without the wind chill. I don't talk about wind chill on this program. That's kind of confusing, and we can see the winds. Not much wind as far as that goes. And minus 48 a little bit to the north there. Let's take a look at Norman Wells and check out their METAR observations. So there's the report there from Aviation Weather Center. The updated data has them down to minus 46 Celsius or minus 51 Fahrenheit. So we're getting some really brutal cold air, and this is late afternoon conditions. So even in spite of it being daytime, they're continuing to cool down. A little bit of stratus, probably radiating some of that heat, and also the low sun angle. The Arctic Circle is about right there. We are pretty much near the solstice, and that means they're going to be looking at very little sunshine. It's probably dark there already. Maybe we can pull up a webcam from Nav Canada. Well, we don't have a station near there, but this will get us in the ballpark. 23Z, yeah, looks dark to me. And right down there, that looks like either structural lights or eyes in the dark. After all, it's minus 50. You can never be too sure. Yeah, here's one at Tulita, a little bit south of there. And there's a short animation of the webcam at Tulita, Northwest Territories, and you can see that minus 45 Celsius. This is minus 50 Fahrenheit with a very low sun angle. In fact, it's pretty much twilight there. And I guess that's the airstrip. Can't imagine what it's like to be there right now. It's going to be a cold night there. So what might the soundings look like? Let's go to UCAR. They've got a good sounding page for a lot of places in the world. This is Norman Wells. I believe it's Norman Wells. Yeah, YVQ, that's it. However, this is for this morning when they were only minus 45 Fahrenheit or thereabouts. Yeah, minus 43. And yeah, this paints out the exact observed conditions. So we're not looking at model data here. This is at the actual radiosonde data. And we can see that the Arctic air probably tops out at about maybe 1 kilometer. And above that, I would say that changes over to kind of a polar air mass. So this lower part here, this is kind of like a frontal inversion, and it's maintained by strong radiational cooling. And if we have any stratus or ice fog, that will also radiate more heat away to space from the tops of those layers. And that can cause a chain reaction which continues cooling the bottom part of the air mass down. Now, when we talk about thickness, obviously we're not seeing any extremely low thickness values, and that's because when we take the 500 through 1000 millibar thickness, we're taking an average temperature. Now, technically, we're talking about average density, but temperature is the main thing that dominates those thickness values. And you can see that it's a little bit of very cold Arctic air, and it's a little bit of more mild polar air. So mixing the two, we get kind of a moderate thickness reading, moderately cold thickness reading. So that's one thing you want to remember when you look at thickness. A lot of times forecasters will actually look at 1000 through 850 millibar thickness or 1000 through 700 millibar thickness to analyze these Arctic air masses. Now, I don't know if we can get 1000 through 850 millibar thickness. Yeah, I'm just seeing a bunch of papers and instructive websites. I don't see any actual data on here. It does look like Weatherbell might have that data. Yeah, they've apparently got it somewhere on there. However, I don't have an account with them. I might have to check them out sometime. But anyway, just so you know, that's one way you can actually get that data. So just so you know, that's one way we can actually look at the Arctic air masses and find the extent of those boundaries. So anyway, we did get a bunch of snow there in the northeast U.S. How much did we get? We can get a definitive answer by going to the NOHRSC webpage. And there's the national map. Now you can see it's 6Z, so that's going to be midnight last night. We don't have the new data yet. Now another source of that data is going to be the Canadian analysis. And you can see likewise that's 6Z. So without any actual observed data, we can go to the GFS model, pull up the winter weather tab there at Pivotal Weather, and go to snow depth. And this will give a model-derived idea how much snow there is. Let me zoom that out so you can see the scale. Bring that up to the current time there, and it looks like, let's see, there's that dark peach color, 24 inches. So it looks like that axis runs up from about Binghamton up through Manchester, New Hampshire, and then a larger area of 5 to 10 inches across much of New England and Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Another way you can see how bad the snow is to go to Google Maps and pull up the traffic overlay. Now it looks like the interstates have been plowed and they're definitely moving. How about the back roads? Yeah, this is around the Hudson-Kingston area. It looks like there's problem spots here and there. Looks like a lot of those roads are plowed. However, these smaller roads, I don't see any traffic moving on them, so they're probably a little bit treacherous. And you can also go to the various Department of Transportation sites for each state and look at the webcams that they have available. So we can put in New York DOT camera. You can pretty much do that for any state. So NYC, that's probably going to be focused on New York City. We want to see upstate New York. And I'm not sure if there's a map on here, but there's some of the views that we have out there this evening. Yeah, so eventually if you dig around in there, you can find the cameras. So Kingston is going to look like that. And yeah, that looks like a good 8 to 10 inches there. And we'll bring up another one for the Binghamton area. Well, it is nighttime, but there it is. It looks like they've also had some pretty heavy snow. Okay, so we got to get this wrapped up. Let's take a look at the forecast. We've got a new bear clinic system coming together there in Canada. There it is right there, the outgoing Atlantic system off the edge of the map there. And we've got that ridge of cold air. I'm looking at the thickness. That's the ridge of cold air across the Great Lakes down into Kentucky and Tennessee. So it looks like with that being out to the west of New York and Pennsylvania, there's still going to be about another day of cold air. Moving forward, that bear clinic system in Canada moves towards Hudson Bay. And we kind of catch the tail end of the front, which feebly, I don't know if that's a verb, but feebly goes into Minnesota and the Dakotas. And we've got that high there receding across the eastern U.S., bringing up deep southerly flow across the plains. Then going into Saturday, you can see there just is not much push on that cold air in the Great Lakes, but here's a new system coming together in the Canadian prairies. Let's see what that does. Well, that one also moves off to the east, and we end up with a very strong southwesterly flow, downslope conditions, so I think we're looking at maybe another warm-up there around the 20th to 21st in the central U.S. And let's see what our next big change is. Ooh, there's a good Pacific system coming inland. So that's going to be the front right there. That's a new Pacific front coming in from Washington across Montana on the 22nd. And that's going to move eastward, and likely due to the cold air following this system, that's going to depress the heights aloft out in the western U.S., and that may allow some cold air to sink into the western states. And yeah, you can see the height falls, or the thickness falls out there, and we end up with a very strong burst of cold air into the central U.S. around Christmas Eve. So there's your forecast for Christmas Eve there. Looks cold across the eastern two-thirds of the country. Now, one very important thing to ask when you see these very low thicknesses is whether that's due to extremely intense cold air near the surface or if it's very deep cold air. Well, we can answer that by bringing up a skew-t, and it looks like it's a combination of the two. The frontal inversion there topping out at 3 kilometers, about 12,000 feet thick, which is moderately deep, moderate to very deep. And the cold air itself, 1 degree Fahrenheit at the surface and about -5, just under 1 kilometer. But you can see those 504 thicknesses coming all the way down into Chicago and Iowa, so likely we're going to be seeing single-digit temperatures there, and likely some very cold conditions in Texas and Kentucky. Now, I did look at the European model, and we don't seem to get thickness on this, but it was going a little bit less severe with that cold over Christmas. Let me bring that up to the Christmas period there. So we don't have thickness, but we do have pressure, and you can see it's bringing a 1036 millibar high. Not a whole lot of cold air coming south. Looking at the wind field strictly, let's compare that to the GFS. Yeah, you can see that the GFS going for 1041. A little stronger with that cold air. In fact, there's 1043 there. So things may trend a little bit more towards the European model. Anyway, we'll check that out tomorrow for Friday's webcast. And that's all I have for this Forecast Lab. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. And of course, comment and like. It would be very much appreciated. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.